one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, thank you for commuting us all here today safely with the winds. And, look out for the people who have been evacuated. And a lot of people at my job have been evacuated, and we pray for them. We pray for everyone who's been affected and has lost their houses and things and memorables that they cannot replace. And we hope we get everything back to some sense of normality as quick as possible. In God's name we pray. Amen. All right. Hello, everyone. Let's see. It looks like we got a lot of guests today. Let's see. All guests. Let's see. Let's start with. Well, yeah. I did just name and what brings you here.
Hey everybody, my name's Austin Gilmore. I was recently told about this Harrison. I recently just passed my private check ride.
Woohoo!
So I just want to enjoy this and share this experience with all you guys.
All right. Thanks, Austin. And I think are you?
I went last time.
You went last time.
But you're still new.
Still new? Here,
We had to go 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, my name is Adam, and I just passed my private check ride as well in December. To join in our band.
All right. Thank you, Adam. All right. As we say, fresh meat. Oh, sorry. All right. Thank you for that. Let's see. The squadron has a few new members. Let's see. So I think only one of them is here, though. Is that what I'm seeing?
They might be online.
Oh. Is he? I don't see anybody. Or maybe on YouTube. YouTube. Okay. So Dathan Flesher, Ivan Gonzalez, and Josh Willoughby. Welcome aboard, new senior members. Remember the big thing: bang through your first 90 days, level 1. If you need any help, reach out to any of us. That's your main goal at this time. Thank you. Let's see. Promotions. Well, Mr. Connor, front and center. Show my screen?
Yeah.
Oh,
It worked.
That's
why.
this again? Sorry. Let's do this real quick. I always forget. I don't know why. Why is that? All right. Thank you. All right. All right. Congratulations on completing the requirements to be promoted and frocked to captain.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't know, Captain Connor is a very accomplished person. So that is one way here at for guests and whatnot. Professional achievements do advance you through our senior member program's ranks, because our ranks are not so much military experience, because obviously we're not the military, but professional achievements of certain types that are very in parallel line to cap goals will get you advanced through our ranking system. But what it means is, you do get frocked, as the Navy likes to call it, but then you kind of have to play catch up with if you want to advance beyond that. So kind of a little tidbit, but a lot of cadets wonder, what the senior ranks actually mean. So when you see lieutenant colonels and majors walking around, there's a program of education and professional development that does correlate with what we do here as a senior. So your time in grade, and the various accomplishments you have at CAP all contribute to the requirements of those ranks. So when you see someone like a Cap Lieutenant Colonel, they've been around Cap a long time, they have a lot of experience, and that's reflected in that particular rank. So that's how you know. But anyways, congratulations to Captain Connor.
So he didn't need to buy all the donors?
No. It does help, though. All right. Let's see. So we kind of did promotions already, but no pending awards, no pending recognitions, unless there's something that I've missed that anyone knows about. Going once, going twice. All right. Moving on. As usual, November 216 Charlie Papa better known as Cap 416, is grounded and not mission capable, stuck at March Air Force Base. I think it has bald tires or flat spots or something up with the tires. The wing check pilot who was flying it didn't like it, grounded it. So it's stuck there until we can get it back and get, I guess, new shoes. So no flying in the Turbo 206.
It's due for its 100 too, I think. coming up
So
shortly.
so we yeah, so we
It's gonna
should.
be back on Thursday.
So as soon as there's a pilot who can fly it, I think there's they can just get a ferry to bring it back to maintenance one, and hopefully not blow the tires on landing. So, I think that was the check pilot's point was normally probably not a groundable thing, but since you're dealing with crosswind landings, there's a good chance of side loading and popping a tire. So I think that's how that went. The ubiquitous 172 is still not making an appearance until next month, what we think. Our Tahoe did go to the desert last weekend, so I'm sure it's waiting for, whatever's probably. I didn't check it. I saw it when it came back. It didn't look bad, but I'm sure it's bad because it was a 4x4ing out in the out in the desert. So, yay. And exactly. Well, and the winds didn't help either. So,
I'll have you know, my Cougar cleaned that top of it was great a week ago.
not anymore. Winds plus desert. I guarantee we won't notice. Thank you. Okay, upcoming events, as we like to cover all the time. Just repetition makes for good memories. The National Commander Conference, which I urge everyone to attend, especially those of us that are level 2 or achieving to be level 3 at some point, because this will count as part of your national conference attendance. This is a virtual attendance, Thursday, January 16th at 1700 PST. I'm going to make sure I try to remember it because I'm sure I'll be at work, but if you can attend, please do. It does count. Yes?
How do you, what do you need to do to make it count? Do you have to have something from them or just?
I don't know. I don't remember the email where it went out either.
Yeah.
Is that so? There's a link to it.
Just register right on there.
You actually go into
And
Absorb,
Oh, okay.
and that's where you register, and then
Then
you'll
you
get
add it
credit.
to your
I
calendar,
wonder-
and then the link is where you
okay.
go to the meeting. Oh, okay, because I got all of that. I just don't know how to put it into the
You just have to take a
professional.
picture of, or a picture of it, so when you get it signed off, that attendance thing, you can prove it.
Because I'm going to be basically getting ready for work
Yep.
as I'm listening to this.
Well, and it's pretty lengthy from what I understand. So,
I think it's an hour and a
yeah,
half,
yeah.
maybe.
So,
But that's better than 2
Go-
days
the-
in the conference room and
well, I don't know. The stories I've heard about Wing Conference, I don't think it compares. So,
I had a great time.
yeah, there's lots of stories.
I think there's a donut story in this one.
Yeah, not, and it's not safe for work, I'm sure. Yeah, and then I think so. Since it was in San Jose, it'll be down here next year, so it'll be worse. Okay, so yeah, sign up through Absorb. I think I'm going to make sure I do that today as well. Group 7 SARX. So if you didn't have enough fun last weekend, or you missed last weekend, Fullerton is having, or Group 7 is having a SARX at Fullerton. I think they have most of their positions filled at least once, but if you're looking to get a checkout or get something new done, now's your chance. If weather tends to be squirrely this time of year, so if weather cancels, it'll be February 1 to 2 is the alternate date. I've got a link. So again, the agendas, it's in teams, in Squadron, the Squadron teams in general, and then files meeting if you need to get to this document to find where that link is. That's that. Mission Scanner School. So I still don't have all the details, but I think he's going to send them out shortly. But now it'll be interesting to see if we have a plane. Hopefully we'll get the plane back before this Mission Scanner School. But it's going to be next month, February 8th, 9th, here at our squadron. And I think we've decided to just kind of make this a scanner school because it's, we tried doing scanner and observer and that turned into a little bit of a mess. So If you are looking to get Mission Scanner, and again, for everyone who's new or looking to join, um, even if you are going down the pilot path, you have to be a Mission Scanner first. Um, it's just to make sure you understand what we do here at CAP. Our goal is to put eyeballs on target, and that means sitting in the back. So if you're a pilot, you probably don't ride in the back very often, and it's helpful to remember that it gets very pukey if you don't fly really stable back there. So that's just to let you know. And then, of course, if you don't want to do the National Commander Conference, and you happen to be in Portland, Oregon in April, the region conference will be in Portland, Oregon, April 19th through 21st. So another chance to attend.
And also there's a Group 1 SARX at Whiteman on February 22nd and 23rd.
Let's see, Group 1. Is it an email?
They've sent out the save the date, but they haven't sent the other
Do-
information yet.
Where do you know where it's going to be?
It's going to be at Whiteman.
Whiteman. You said February
22nd through 23rd.
Cool. All right. Added and noted.
Regarding the Group 7 Serex, they're looking for SUAS folks still.
Okay. Yeah, because
Sets or anybody that wants to do it.
They were looking primarily for mission pilots and technicians, but I mean that means that they're obviously going to try to do some training.
Okay.
interesting. Okay. Excellent.
I'm trying to. I think it's only for the 25th. I'm trying to get my schedule cleared so I can go help them. But we'll see.
Almost Squadron that needs the SUAS. Not Group 1.
Okay.
No, it's Fullerton that needs the SUAS.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. So that's it for the upcoming. Anyone else have something I don't know about?
Did you mention anything about the hangar, the new hangar?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of us took a look at it yesterday or last meeting. There's still some work that needs to be done to move in there, but I think we're trying to beat a 30-day schedule. I think something like that. So we gotta give Mike time to do Mike stuff. So, but I think I don't know if you've seen it. Did you see it since they put the lights in there?
No.
Yeah. So they put new lights in there. It looks great. I think Mike wants to slurry coat, so we need to steam clean the floor, slurry coat, put the guide bars down, and then he needs to drill drainage holes because it does have a little bit of a flooding problem from what you can see. So, yay! Yeah, the new hangar, it's interesting. So it's literally the last hangar, kind of back in the corner here. So on the one hand, parking around the hangar gets a little better because nothing's back there aside from some derelict tie downs. But it's a standalone. The floor is a bit uneven, so that's where the flooding problem comes from. And the main goal of it, it's a box, and it's larger, so it's not a T hanger, so it's more space. But we'll have to make sure we take some steps in there to weatherproof whatever we store in there. But it gives us a little bit of a standoff if this facility gets too expensive. So that's the way that hangar works. So, but yeah, it does mean it won't be as convenient as just walking across the way to get to our hangar. So I think there was some talk about golf carts, or something. So well. Yeah.
It's really not too terrible bad if you go back and cut through the first set of hangers. It's right there.
It's not bad. But if we're schlepping gear like the radio gear and stuff like that, I'm sure that people will start to have some issues. So yeah, let's bring a car.
How are you gonna deal with the Wi-Fi?
Haven't made that decision yet. There's really no good option. I mean, we can't tag off of it like we do here. So our current hangar is close enough that we just shoot the signal across. So we're gonna have to get probably another T-Mobile connection or something. Everyone keeps throwing around Starlink, but I'm like, well, Starlink's still $100 a month, and we're already, we're already at $300 a year for membership. So I'd rather not pass that down. But we'll figure something out because the T-Mobile works pretty well. It's definitely cheaper than Starlink, so we'll see.
I have an idea on some. You can do what's called a passive radiator, 2 directional antennas.
So
one pointing here and one pointing down
so
into the hangar.
yeah, so I'm a Ubiquity guy, so that's the Unify. That's what we use here. There is actually Unify directional. That if we get poles and we have line of sight and we can see that we have line of sight, those would do the same thing. So we would be able to extend our current Wi-Fi into the hangar. It's all a matter of seeing if I can find some used equipment maybe, and then one of these days one of us has to take a trip up to the roof. I don't know what's up there, and then
Rumor I heard is we're not allowed anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what if we have to maintenance our antennas?
Then we have to hire somebody. Supposedly. I don't. That's what I heard.
Ourselves.
What's that?
Can we hire ourselves?
Yeah, we have like general contractors here. So, I mean,
I guess somebody.
There be dragons.
yeah, I think there be dragons. I think something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we haven't decided. I mean, there's a couple of options, but as always, we got to figure that out. Figure that one out because having internet in there is obviously we like it. So
Pilots love it because they can do all their
stuff right there.
work right there.
Yep.
They're not paid for
Which is interesting because all of us who've done IPL, it's like we don't have internet at the plane. It's like that seems to work just fine. We just use our cell phones. But, okay. So some of this may change, but so far the aircrew training opportunity that's coming up is going to be mission scanner sign-offs and training. Hopefully the plane is good to go. I know there was some back and forth on which pilots would be available. I think a couple would be available to fly Cat 416, but I'm not the officer in charge. Lieutenant Gappison is. I'm sure he'll tighten that up over the next couple weeks. I don't have anything on IPL or our aircraft going to SRX anytime soon. If that changes, I'll definitely put it here. As I talk about a lot, recruitment opportunities. I was looking for a recruitment officer, but good opportunities to do that would be at the Antink aircraft displays around the area. Another recap, like I said, I like repetition makes the memory go good. If you are ever wondering, again, if you find the agenda and you go down here, you just kind of see a running tab of what's going to happen next. I will add the Group 1 SARX to this a little bit later. The one that is coming up here is the for anyone who's completed Level 1, Level 2 training will be May 10th. A Lieutenant Colonel Norbert Sheehan is asked to reserve this facility, so it will be here in this building to do your Group 3, because Group 3 has online components and in-person requirements, which you can knock both out on the same day if you do it in person, or you'll have to do a volunteer cohort, which takes a little bit longer, but can be done online. It's just a little harder to kind of get through it and get through all the different modules when it's virtual. So be ready for that. Have you heard anything more about the communications conference? Yes, no?
I have not, but that's definitely the way to go. The Level 2 training, when they do both of them, definitely the way to go to get it knocked out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a bigger stick for those of us trying to get to Level 3, because I haven't heard of anybody doing any in-person group Level 3s, so I think we're going to be stuck with the volunteer university at that point. So, yes.
I was just going to add, for any of the new people, anybody who's trying to get through group Level 2, definitely try to take advantage of that in-person training for the cohort stuff, because doing it online was a bit of a hassle.
Yeah.
So it's
which for the new guys means you need to get through your Level 1, but literally you can get through Level 1 in like a few days if you have some time to do it. We kind of set a target of 90 days, but it being May, if you become full members and complete your level 1, you have plenty of time to, get ready for coming in for level 2 and just to knock it out. I mean, even if you don't care and never plan on doing it, just knock it out and get it taken care of, and you won't have to worry about it ever again. So, anyway, moving on. General announcements. We always talk about pilot onboarding, especially for the new guys. So even if you are a low-time pilot, which I'm a low-time pilot too, so don't be ashamed, you can still be a cap VFR pilot, which means you can rent our aircraft. And before you think that's a bummer, these are typically G1000 aircraft. Some of them are turbo. You can get checked out in them, so you fly with a cap instructor, get the endorsements needed to fly that aircraft, and you too can rent it and fly it. You can't carry passengers that are not members of CAP, so that's one restriction. And you are renting that plane. But tell me where else you're going to be able to rent a Turbo 206 G1000 for like $120 an hour. It's not going to happen. And our 182s, I think, are $90 an hour or something like that. So, again, it's a great way to rent a plane until you get enough hours to get to TMP. And once you're in TMP, now you have mission profiles that you can actually do. So, if you are looking to become a better pilot and build your hours, it's a great way to do it, is to get into pilot onboarding. The requirements of pilot onboarding is completing level 1. You complete level 1, you can get pilot onboarding. So keep that in mind as you think about your career at CAP. Second, a lot of questions about becoming a set. So there's not a lot of, there's the official way that you're supposed to take the set training and then submit yourself or have someone submit you to be a set. But, I, as a squadron commander, I had a talk with our group commander, and one of the things that we want to set some standards. So what my bar is for set is we want to see, if you're tracking, like you've been in an ops qual for at least a year, so, MROs, MSs, anything that's in ops quals that you can complete. If you've done it for at least a year, what we want to see next is you mentor somebody through getting that particular ops qual, start to finish. The famine prep and the advanced training, and we want to watch you mentor somebody through that process. It does not have to be at a SARX. It can be outside of the SARX, but we just want to see your technique. We want to see that you're churning out quality people for that particular ops qual, and then either myself or group commander will write a recommendation, which is what we attach to the request to become a set. So that's kind of the technique. That's the part that we're adding as a group command level decision. And it's like we haven't had any problems with sets, at least not in this squadron, but we do see a lot of people with certain qualifications out there that can't actually do the job. So we want to kind of nip that in the bud and not make Group 3 a source of, unskilled people at positions. And as an example, I was finishing AOBD on the SARX. But the way it's supposed to go, again, and a little bit review for everybody, but almost all things that you train for at CAP, there's going to be kind of requirements, initial requirements. Usually it's something very simple like B21 or, whatever. Then there's, the commander approval. Then there's kind of a book learning section that we call familiarization and preparatory training, FAM and prep. And that is kind of the book learning part of doing any of our particular jobs. Then there's advanced training. And advanced training is typically doing that task in a supervised, environment, whether it be a SARX or an actual training mission. And you're supervised by an evaluator or a skills trainer to do that job. And then you'll get an exercise participation from that. But the second exercise, normally what happens is everybody shows up, scoots around for their second exercise, gets signed off, and boom, now you are whatever you were trying to be. But the reality of it is the second exercise should not be signed off until you can be unsupervised. And that's the key that we're looking for all sets. That's the bar. So I was trying to finish my AOBD, and the question is, can I be cut loose as an AOBD? Can they trust me to do the AOBD job by myself? Even though I think we've done it 3 times in a row now, or 3 times at some point. Does that mean I'm accomplished at being an AOBD yet? No, and especially the last SARX kind of showed, it can be very complex, and especially the higher up positions you go, whether it's base or pilot, it's a safety issue. It's also an audit issue. So, and I think this year California Wing gets audited for our ability to run missions. So let's say they sign me off as AOBD, and I happen to be selected as an AOBD for the audit, right? And I don't know what I'm doing, right? It's embarrassing for the wing, for the group, for me. We don't want to put people in that position because we actually have a real job to do. So that's the order of things. So we just want to make sure that people understand, and the sets understand, and the people trying to get the positions understand that before we do that second sign-off, which doesn't necessarily mean the second time you do it. It means that second sign-off is you can be unsupervised and do the entire job without correction. So that's the standard I'm setting. I think that's the standard that CAP is setting. And too many people have kind of just checked off the second exercise, and we all go about our business. So that's my little spiel on set creation. So questions, comments?
I agree 100%. I've done enough of the AOBD to actually get it signed off, but I'm not comfortable doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And in fact, I'll just roll this into the debriefing from the SARX. So we had a SARX, a search and rescue exercise is what a SARX stands for. Ostensibly, it means we're supposed to practice doing search and rescue, but really what it is a training opportunity to be in a mission-like environment where we practice all the individual tasks and skills that go into running missions. So that is everything from flying the plane to being an observer in the aircraft, to being a scanner in the aircraft, to being an aerial photographer in the aircraft, hybrid missions where we relay communications, the communications team and everything they do. So, Chuck was our communications unit leader, and all the MROs that are being trained. This was actually a complicated SARX. That's why it's called an advanced SARX, because there were 3 bases. There was this base, mountain base, and desert base. There were 2 different repeaters in use, and a very complicated kind of comms plan to get messages routed around. And on top of all of that, there's supposed to be air coverage, and there's ground teams. So there's ground teams out there hiking out at Landers, California, and bivouacking, like they're cadets and out there sleeping in the desert and whatnot. So it was supposed to be a time to practice ground teams working with air teams. Well, as we all know, we're in red flag. I think one plane took off. That's the plane that's stuck over at Riverside at March, because there's gusting 35 knots, and CAP regulations are anything over 15 knots, no fly. So since they were already airborne, they couldn't come back to Riverside. Meanwhile, it was like winds calm at March Air Force Base, so they just landed there. But that's an example of knowing the procedures about CAP is, sure, can you land the plane in greater than 15 knot wind? Of course you can. Is that CAP regulations? No, it is not. So, that's one thing to keep in mind about how we fly here at CAP. We use a pretty large safety margin. We don't want people bending themselves or the plane. So there you go. But one thing we found is we did a lot of planning. We did at least a couple of months of planning, and a lot of planning around the air ops, because air ops are very complicated. Aircraft have to be flown in from somewhere, and pilots that are authorized to fly those planes have to come from somewhere as well. And then there was this golden, they wanted to do 3 sorties a day, which I've heard this since I've been at CAP. I've never seen 3 sorties a day go well, but you've got a bunch of aircraft, a bunch of pilots, a bunch of observers, and a bunch of MSs, and like 1 aerial photographer. I don't know how that happened, but we need more aerial photographers, by the way. And that was the grand plan. We had them all planned out. We had them all just, this is going to be the great plan. We had all the sorties worked out. It was going to be awesome. And the closer you get to the SARX day, pilots start dropping off, planes start breaking, and all those good laid plans just start to fall apart. So I got to see it at Ground Zero as an AOBD. It doesn't really seem to matter how much you plan or how much you don't plan. Things are going to go a little bit wonky as you get into the SARAC. So um, I think what we fell back to was we did as much training as we could. People who were here, I think they did some UDF because of the winds, everybody's grounded, so might as well do ground stuff. And I think we practiced briefing, which is an important skill for mission observers. Well, air crews in general is the process of we've got a tasking and we need to go fly it, and then we need to come back and debrief. So that is a structured event here at CAP. There is your sortie has been created. You brief what you're going to do with the entire air crew. So the pilot and the air crew all talk about what we're going to do. They go do it. They come back and they debrief. That's just, even if you are relocating a plane solo, Harrison knows this, that is the process. Yeah, I'm going to take this plane from here to here, and then, whatever. There is still a briefing. Well, there's a sortie, a briefing, a debrief when you get back, and flight release in the middle of all that. So it's a chance to really get to learn to do it with other people that know how to do it, and so we got to practice some of that. But that's where I also started noticing again the whole set discussion. Especially the observers need to be really, really good on understanding our CAP grid system. How to read maps, how to understand our search patterns, how to really work with the pilot on what we're going to do and how we're going to position the aircraft to get the people in the back to see targets. So that's kind of the debrief. I don't know, Chuck, you got anything to add?
No, but I think it's good that all of those changes take place, because that's what happens on real missions as well. All of those factors come into play on a real mission. So it really is good practice.
I mean, those of you that you were there, anything wanted to add to like your experience of it? Because you guys were experiencing it as a slightly different way than Chuck and I.
Well, naturally, having a plan B is good to have. I didn't plan on doing UDF. However, that day, I planned on it as far as things that I would like to engage. However, I had my plan set for MRO and so on and so forth. So plan Bs are good. If there's anything else that you need to get signed off and you're unable to do anything, to be able to drop down and engage in something else that you might want to have signed off is really a big plus. So a lot of talent around and people willing to do it. So you allocated the time, you made a point to get here. So you may as well use time productively instead of going home and then coming back again to do it another day. So
Excellent.
it was a good experience.
And the thing is, you got to be flexible, as you said. I mean, there's been many times when I'm supposed to do a staff job and they say, you know what, we really need an MO. And, bring all your gear with you no matter where you go. So you've got whatever you need to do whatever job.
Yeah, I agree with that. Paul, anything else you saw?
I would echo everything. I showed up to do MO or MSA, Mission Staff Assistant or Mission Observer, and when we couldn't fly, rolled into the Mission Staff Assistant role, and then did that, and then it was really valuable sitting down with an experienced MO to learn how to do the briefing and do the routes and all that in flight. And so it was a valuable experience, even though my primary intention was to get into the air, and we didn't.
I think were you in the plane that you actually get to start up and then shut down?
No, we were.
Oh, I think you canceled. I think he canceled because you guys were looking at
We're
40 knot.
you should go. It's not that bad out there.
Yeah, I was like, Shin is, I think it's like the more often you fly, the less you're willing to put other people in danger. But he was like,
Yeah, they were arguing whether it was a 15 or a 20 knot.
Yeah, windsock.
and I was like, I
Like,
mean,
either one is bad.
so for for all you new guys and especially new pilots, so if you're new, you especially got tested on your ADM, like your aeronautical decision making from a DPE, right? So this is a perfect example. You're standing in a room full of other pilots and people that want to fly. They all want to fly. This is going on outside. The windsock is fully, stretched out, and you've got people that have thousands of hours of experience, and so one aircraft took off, and you're like, okay. And then people are like, well, what's my mission again? And you're looking at the grid, and you're looking at the weather, and so we're using ForeFlight, we're looking at Windy, and they're getting sent through the Cajon Pass, and it's like 40 knot crosswinds through the Cajon Pass, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that, and so and you shouldn't feel any stress about making that decision because we're asking you as a pilot the pilot's job is the safe operation of the aircraft to put the air crew over the target and then bring the aircraft back safely and accomplish the mission. That's the pilot's job. So if the pilot's like, that's not safe, guess what? And this is on the topic of today is like safety. That's a pilot decision. So he didn't want to go fly circles over with 40 knot crosswinds. So and now that said, when I got my MO sign off, we were doing hybrid in 40 knot crosswinds. so I mean, is it it all depends on the pilot. The pilot I was flying with was okay with that, but don't feel pressure from other people, including base staff, and the operations section chief, who really wants to get sorties going, but he's not in the plane, right? I mean, supposedly he's a pilot. I think Shin is a pilot, but he doesn't have a lot of hours. But that's a perfect example of don't let that pressure, and most of the pilots did not. And our senior pilot, who was on board our plane, who got diverted, that was his call. He was like, nah, this is bad, we're landing somewhere else, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. So
well, and a good reminder too is it's not only up to the pilot. If you're part of the air crew and you're not comfortable with what's being proposed, absolutely not.
Yeah. So, all right. So with
with all the heavy winds, we actually saw Cap 433 take off.
Yes.
Was that the one that got diverted, or
No, they were. So at the end of the SARX, we were just trying to get as many planes and crews that were willing to wait for the winds to be low enough here to take off and fly away, because the winds elsewhere wouldn't be as bad by theory. So since they were going to Torrance was projected to be well under, the maximums for CAP. So their whole goal was to get out of Dodge, and book it to. Well, they actually did do a sortie and then landed at Torrance. Yeah. Yeah, you should have watched. Yeah, and you should have watched them take off. It was fun to watch. Yeah, it's hovering like a like a VTOL. All right. Let's see. You got enough time for yours? Okay. No problem.
Yeah, I'll bust through it.
Yeah. While he's going up there, let me say, if that's okay.
Hmm? Yeah.
Okay, I'm the safety officer, and Paul's going to do a safety meeting tonight he's trying to fill a square for the thing, and I hope he does a good job, and I'm sure he will.
Thanks for the confidence.
I do have a new assistant, and it's what's the name already? No, Joshua. Where I don't even know who he is.
Online.
Oh, he's online? Oh, okay, so he's not here. Okay, so Joshua is going to be my assistant. Normally this time of year, where National wants us to do like a specific safety meetings, and I chose this night to be our main one, the one for the year. We have a safety meeting every second Tuesday throughout the whole year, but there's one time of the year where we actually do a safety down day. And I'm going to count that as being a safety down day. And the subject he's going to be talking about tonight, I think, fits right into what that will be. So,
Excellent.
Take it away. Is my screen being shared?
Not yet. In video view, it means the screen's not being shared.
It says Teams is sharing the window.
Is it the right window?
Well, no,
you don't
that's
see your desktop.
That's
Okay, I'll try it again.
Are you seeing? You're not seeing my share. You're just seeing my camera.
right.
Yes. No.
Huh. Try that again. Oh, you're in the wrong room. that'll do it. That'll do it. You are signed in.
I don't see him logged in on your screen.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, just join that one. That should be the right one. Yeah. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, did you? Where you go? There we go. There we go.
So this one will be shared, but no.
That one lags a little bit, so.
I'm gonna go full screen. Go lower right. That little bracket at the lower right of the screen.
Just saying, this is what everybody else is seeing.
I'm gonna do that. You might just have to listen.
That's right. It was popping up the first time, wasn't it?
It was.
Here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, we're going to start with, here's our agenda. We're going to look at the last flight of one of our aircraft, and then we're going to talk about personal minimums. So we'll start with a quiz. See how smart you are in the new year. What is Squadron 5's most valuable asset? Our building and hangar. We actually have 2 hangars now. Our airplane, that's usually never here. Or squadron members, or our bank account.
Expo markers.
Yeah, I forgot to put that on there. Yes, squadron members, right? The reason that Roger stays up at night and everything else that we talk about is for safety is because we are the most important asset that this organization has. So we're going to look at what that means in the context of safety. So last flight of November, 3-4 Charlie Papa. We had, this is a picture of the plane before it took off. This was the mission. It was a training mission on November 23rd, 2009, 180T Skylane, and this was the result. 3 souls on board. Our mission pilot, deceased. Mission observer, seriously injured. An aerial photographer, deceased. And so Blanco's going to do an early analysis for us.
This civil aircraft crashed in the mountains of Colorado, just north of Drake, Colorado, while on a routine aerial photography mission. Here's what we know so far. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Aerial Channel. This aircraft involved in the accident is a 2009 Cessna 182T. T does not mean turbocharged in this case, that's just the model number, but it is powered by the IO 540 Lycoming fuel-injected engine, putting out about 230 horsepower. The Colorado Civil Air Patrol is mourning the loss of the pilot, Susan Wolber, a very experienced Civil Air Patrol pilot, and aerial photographer Jay Roten, and seriously injured in the crash was co-pilot Randall Settergren. Looking at the preliminary ADS-B data from ADS-B Exchange, we see the aircraft departed Fort Collins Loveland Airport at about 16:58 and headed off to the west to do aerial photography practice here in the mountains at an altitude of 8,000 to 9,000 feet. And then it appears that on the way back, they decided to take some pictures just to the west of Palisade Mountain. The elevation of Palisade Mountain is about 8,000 feet, with the entire flight lasting about 1 hour and 14 minutes. Now, if we take this ADS-B data and again export it to Google Earth, we can get a better 3D view of the flight path. And if we spin around, we can take a look at the final moments of the flight behind Palisade Mountain. We can get an idea of just how steep that drop-off was the last few data points. If we go over to Zoom Earth and rewind the date back to 23 November, 11:10 a.m., about the time of the accident, we can see that there were some clouds in the area, higher clouds, and we can also take a look at the winds at the time. Fort Collins area reporting only 4 miles per hour out of the east-southeast, but in the mountains near the crash site, winds are typical out of the west-southwest at 19 to 20 miles per hour. If we put our Google map back in the north-up orientation and take a look at those winds, winds from the west-southwest is going to put the accident aircraft right on the lee side of the mountain where your maximum downdrafts would occur. As the wind flows over the mountains, just like water in a stream, it can create quite turbulent airflow on the lee side of the mountains, especially when operating at low altitude. Now let's take a closer look at these ground speeds of the mission flight. Susan's ground speeds are varying quite a bit, from 65 knots up to 123 knots as they work in and out of this headwind tailwind condition in the mountains. And at the last couple of data points, we see her slow flying in here at about 89 knots, 85 knots in here. But then there's this steep turn right here, 65 knots, 55 knots, 41 knots, 36 knots. I mean, even with the winds aloft at the time, operating very, very close to the stalling speed of the aircraft. Remember, there's 3 people on board the Cessna 182, naturally aspirated. It's a cold day, but they're up here at 8,000 feet. You just don't have a lot of excess performance in a Cessna 182 at this elevation, even in these colder temperatures. 39 knots of ground speed, 41 knots of ground speed. And this slow flight regime continues. 81.75 on the altitude, 82.25, 82.75. She's hanging on to her altitude here, but continuing to fly very, very slow ground speeds. Let me scoot this over so you can see over here on the left. We'll not only take a look at the altitudes, but the rate of altitude change at these different data points. 82, 25, 50 knots, climbing at 640 to 700 feet per minute, depending on which data you're looking at. Climbing 960, 64. So she's got quite a bit of lift going on here. She's climbing, trying to climb out of this altitude. 47 knots, 82.75. We're getting some conflict in the data here. Barometric rate says descending at 500 feet per minute. Geometric rate says climbing at 768 feet per minute. Barometric rate 2,496 feet per minute down. So right in here, they've lost control of the aircraft. Last data point, 3,000 feet per minute rate of descent. A loss of control of the aircraft. Directly downwind and very close to Palisade Mountain, elevation over 8,000 feet. An alert was sent out right after the crash, and a Colorado Army National Guard helicopter was able to respond quickly. Local TV Channel 9 news helicopter was up shortly after the crash and got these images. It looks to me like all 4 corners of the aircraft are located in a very close proximity to the crash site, indicating to me that, or corroborating the ADS-B data, that this was in fact a loss of control of the aircraft. It's very unlikely that this would be a in-flight breakup of the aircraft, especially at those sort of low airspeeds. It's simply not that easy to break up a Cessna 182 at lower airspeeds. Could it have been a possible engine failure? Investigators will be able to take a good look at the engine to try and determine if it was in operational condition at the time of the crash. And this appears to be one of the wings wrapped around this tree. Here's another view of that one wing wrapped around the tree. And as we look at the background here with the snow against the previously burned forest, we can get a sense of the idea of how hard it is for these Civil Air Patrol crews to find downed aircraft in these sort of snowy conditions. And these are the sort of things that these guys are training for constantly. In some cases, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack. But in this case, this fuselage is still pretty well intact. Fully 20% of general aviation accidents occur while maneuvering at low altitudes. And of course, everybody knows that your stall speed increases with increased angle of bank, particularly when you're trying to maintain your altitude. You're not giving up your altitude for airspeed. And in low-level aerial photography, you've always got a photographer that wants you to get lower and slower and closer to the target. In Alaska, this sort of accident is so common, it's got the name moose stalls. Hunters and pilots orbiting over a fixed point, like a moose, for example, and then stalling the aircraft because they're so fixated on the target. In Texas, I hear they call them coyote stalls because you're orbiting over a coyote or some fixed object and losing control of the aircraft. And as we all know, an aircraft can stall at any airspeed or any attitude, but only one critical angle of attack. So is an angle of attack indicator part of the solution? Well, maybe. To really drive the point home is this classic old video that's commonly used for training video now. I first saw this video back when I was training up in the U.S. Forest Service to be a lead plane pilot. The L-19E crash near Tabernash, Colorado. Now, this was a situation more with density altitude with this aircraft, but he's attempting to get himself out of a bowl that he managed to get himself into. Now, this is summertime in the mountains of Colorado. So this pilot continues to maneuver up this bowl and get closer and closer to the terrain. Yeah, this bowl here, until at this point here, he decides he's getting too close and he needs to turn around and get out of there. He ends up turning into higher terrain and stalling the aircraft and losing control, spinning in. Getting closer to the terrain. Decides to make a turn to the right into rising terrain. There's the stall warning horn, increased bank angle, stall, into the trees. And it happens just that quick. On Saturday, the 23rd.
So there's more to the video, and Al just let me know that there's a new video that's come out, so we'll follow up on that. Just really want to talk about what we can take away from this. So the NTSB did their preliminary report. Here are some of the findings from that. First, the photography mission was completed when the second part of this flight went on. And this is what the survivor said, that within seconds he heard the pilot say some expletive, lowered the nose and started to turn, and then they encountered a downdraft. And his cell phone automatically called 911 because of the impact. Lessons learned. Come back to your takeaways. Do my thoughts first. Emergency services is a high-risk activity. We are involved in high-risk activity, whether you are in the air or on the ground. So we have to have an honest consideration of all the risks that are involved. And always, always, going back to our first quiz, we want to err on the side of caution. And we want to know and enforce our personal minimums. So I know there's a lot of pilots here in the room. So personal minimums, before we'll talk about that, here's the go or no go. Tell me what you would do. You're a mission scanner observer. You've heard some of this already because this is from this weekend. You're on a training mission. Current crosswind is 14 knots. Cap maximum crosswind is 15 knots. Your mission pilot has 100 hours of flight time and 15 cap missions under his or her belt. The AOBD wants your crew to fly a sortie. Those are new AOBD's Air Operations Branch Director. Go or no go?
I would probably no go as a mission observer, only because it's so close to the.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, if you're leaving here at 14, but your destination could be higher, or when you come back.
Or when you come back, okay. So there's no right or wrong answer, but you have to think about this, because just not only are the pilots making a decision, but you don't have to get in an airplane just because you're the mission observer. You don't have to go. Well, the pilot wants to go, so we gotta go. You don't have to have that kind of response. Let's go on to ground team. Ground team level 3. Entry level member. You're on the ground team emergency services search mission. This is a real world mission. You've been conducting operations for the past 18 hours. The CAP policy says you can only do it for 24 hours. Your ground team leader believes the person is about 2 hours away to find. Go or no go?
Because then you're considering yourself as well.
Okay.
If you pass your limitations of 24 hours, then it becomes the rescue you instead of the other person.
You become part of the rescue.
Exactly.
Right.
You also narrowed the band because it was 2 hours to locate. You got to go 4 hours, which puts you within 2 hours is your error, and it was an estimation. It wasn't even a hard number.
Right. So these are the things, again, that we have to consider in our mission. We are volunteers helping people. And we have to remember we have to help ourselves. So personal minimums, something pilots are aware of. It takes the emotions out of decision making. You make a contract with yourself ahead of time about what you will do and won't do before anything happens, in the calm of your living room or bedroom, so that when the emotion comes, you can pull out your contract and know, I'm not doing it. So for example, I'll not fly unless I've had at least 7 hours of quality sleep. I'll not fly if the outside air temperature is 90 degrees, above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And I had this as one of my personal minimums when I was doing my flight training. And literally I would look, and if it was over 90, I canceled the flight. No thought, no second guessing. I will increase the standard buffers when I'm carrying passengers. All those things you have to do. Personal minimums are not just for pilots. They're for everybody. So you should have personal minimums for every high-risk activity that you are involved in. So the exercise for you, go home, look at all these high-risk activities, and have some personal minimums. So for example, if you're playing sports, the number one sport where people get injured is basketball. People think, I'm 18. I can go up for that dunk. And you leave your hips on the ground as your body goes up and you fall down in 2 pieces. The number one exercise that people get injured is jogging. So think about all these things and come up with your own personal minimums. Remember, you have to do it before the activity. Once the activity starts, the emotion comes in. You have both personal pressure and social pressure. So that is our safety briefing tonight. Take care of yourself. You are our most valuable asset. Any questions?
Not a question, but a comment. One of the things when I was traveling, right in the middle of traveling, I'll take, for example, when we go on vacations, we take into factor how well lit the area that
Excellent.
we're going to is. How narrow the roads are, how familiar we are with the area. Like if I'm heading back home to Pittsburgh, we might stay out a little bit later because I'm familiar when we went to Kauai on our honeymoon, we looked at the thing and we said, if it starts getting dark, we are heading back.
Good.
Because these roads up on the north end of Kauai are really super narrow and sketchy.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be on those at
Yeah,
night.
and so it's like, just on what
Definitely. Right.
and we talked about that even before we went on the road. We were like,
Right.
This road's sketchy. Not going down it unless we got full daylight.
Exactly. You might be in an area where I'm not going out by myself because it's an unknown area, or there might be some sketchy things happening.
And on the same note, on the bigger island of Oahu, we were out much later because it's an urban
Right.
area.
So more lights, more people.
Wider streets.
Right. Yep. Definitely. That's a great example. Any other questions or comments?
Is that true about the 24 hours max for
ground team.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, the duty cycle.
As you go up, you get an extra 24 hours. So
Mhm.
ground team gets 2 gets 48, and ground team level 1 gets 72.
We're just like, I think the flying duty cycle is 14 hours or 16?
14.
14.
Yep.
And just one thing to say is that anybody in the airplane has the right to sit there and say no go. I mean, that's everybody. Air Force is the same way. In the 141 and any of the Air Force airplanes, any crew member says, no go, then they don't go. They stop unless you're in the middle of a war situation, especially on training.
Right. Especially training.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So we got to practice that this weekend.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good.
Excellent. Just a last few notes. One thing for pilots, especially. Oh, you're still on over there. Okay. No problem. For pilots, especially, when there is you can make whatever form you want, but AOPA has a nice form for doing a personal minimum. I saved mine in my ForeFlight folder, and I urge you to have your flight instructor or the last person at your flight review, whatever, sign it, because it binds it to a decision that you've made and you're going to adhere to. Like, I made my personal minimums. My flight instructor gave my last review, reviewed it, looked at it, signed it. So it's not like it's this vaporware form that doesn't exist and I can just ignore it at my will. Like, somebody else has seen it. So that's one thing I would say. And the other thing is the term we use, and you'll learn it if any of you want to select the safety track, is knock it off. Anything you see happening here in CAP, and it could be anything from somebody's carrying one of these tables out this door and you see they're about to trip on that, you say knock it off, because knock it off is the key phrase for stop everything you're doing. It happens when we're pushing planes into the hangar. It happens if we're taxiing. If you are crew on a plane and you see something that the pilot does not, knock it off. It is the golden term to everybody stop what they do, right? All right. That's it. Anything else before we wrap up?
Why that term knock it off instead of stop?
Because it's very specific. And I used to think that it wasn't a thing. And I heard it. In fact, that crash in Dallas where the planes were flying in formation and the plane crashed into the bomber, that's the radio call you heard. Knock it off, knock it off, knock it off.
That's been around for probably 50
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they used to do it with the fighters when they're doing their maneuvers and they have something go wrong. That's the first thing they say. And so that's just been the automatic word.
Yeah, it's just I know it's old school, but it is the catchphrase. I remember the first time when I took the safety course, and I was like, knock it off. That sounds kind of weird, but it's the thing. It's so specific. Yeah, because it's like you would think there's other things you should say, but it's like knock it off is a very specific phrase. If you hear it, you stop. So.
Oh, just something on
Mhm.
the topic. Just a bit of housekeeping.
Mhm.
I sent you an email about our advertising.
Yeah.
Banner. Well, we had 2 advertisement banners that we donated to CAP. I think it was last year. Posters. Thank you. And we got permission to put them in the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of them is now missing as of since beginning of January, because I remember seeing it
Who would
during the holidays.
steal one of them? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, things got moved around a lot. I do remember seeing them setting up for like a Christmas party.
On December 14th, they were having a us, the
Yeah.
flight academies,
Behind
all that
the
stuff
curtain.
over on the hallway, over on the east hallway. And we saw it being put in there because we were flying that day. We just went up just to have, just have a flight, and we saw it that day. And then the next time I was here, which was the second January, I said, hey, I don't see our. I asked her because I remember one broke during the Halloween event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got it fixed, but I wasn't sure. I was 100% sure in my memory if it got fixed. But I asked her, did we get both of them back in the terminal?
Is this the cafe owner?
Um,
Because I would think it should be the airport operations.
It's
crew.
airport operations.
Oh, okay.
So I spoke to, I think he was the manager. His name's Michael.
Yeah. Dean? Michael Dean? Or?
I think so, possibly. I went to the second floor office, and this gentleman came out. I think he said his name was Michael. But I had just come off a 12-hour shift, so I was like half tired. And I did tell him about it, and he said that he will look into it. And I did say, I don't know if it, grew legs and walked out. I'm not sure. Or if it was broken and someone put it aside and didn't tell us about it, which is weird because we have a QR code and our website there, so there's contact information. So I don't know what happened to it.
That's weird.
And they haven't contacted me yet. So
Yeah, I'm sure
we
it's
are
in a.
down
I'm
to
sure it's in a
one.
storeroom somewhere.
But if anyone hears or sees or whatnot,
Alright.
just keep your ears to the grindstone.
Okay.
Maybe that might help.
Yeah, the one that's still in there, you can use as a reference. It's basically the exact same design, but just a different person on the banner.
Yeah, I wish I would have known because I know we had the tenant meeting for the airport recently. So. Oh well.
So that's about it. Yeah, just wanted to give everything.
All right. I'll keep an eye out.
And also an event heads up. I just found out today that at Chino Airport on May 2nd and 3rd, they are having the Wheels, Wings, and Tanks, not necessarily in that order, event. That will be basically pulling out displays of tanks, jeeps, and planes, and having a few flyovers. Not like an air show light. Is what what they're saying, because they can't get the air show box yet.
Yeah.
But
Just some pattern work.
yeah. But,
Is Chino Squadron going to do anything?
I haven't heard it yet because I was just at Chino Airport. I was at Planes of Fame talking to them today about some things and trying to get them on board also with the STEM kit program for their thing. And they said they gave me the heads up on it, and then they just posted about like 10 minutes before the meeting on their Facebook page.
Okay.
So,
All right. Interesting. Yeah. May 2nd and 3rd.
2nd and 3rd, yeah. First Saturday and Sunday.
If you like planes and tanks and jeeps,
And
go to
probably
Chino.
Food trucks most likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, who doesn't like Chino Airport?
Yeah. Chino Airport is
It's
fun.
like the best.
Yeah.
So.
Chino Airport's fun. All right. I think that's it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone online.